Good evening from New York. I'm Chris Hayes. Tens of thousands of people marched across the country today in Minneapolis, Los Angeles, New York, Chicago, Cleveland, many of them braving sub-zero temperatures to protest the police state that Donald Trump is attempting to build before our eyes.
So, good evening. It's quite a remarkable day, isn't it? Tens of thousands of folks marched in cities like Minneapolis, Los Angeles, New York, Chicago, and Cleveland despite those freezing temperatures to stand against what many see as a police state forming under Donald Trump's leadership. You know, a police state is all about using power to suppress dissent, instill fear, and push people into submission. It's a real twist on what policing should be about. Over the past year, we've watched the federal government, especially law enforcement, change dramatically under Trump. I mean, there have even been instances of masked agents shooting nonviolent protesters in the streets.
Cell phone video taken by the same ICE agent who fatally shot a woman in Minneapolis. CBS News has obtained this video and a warning that you may find it disturbing.
You want to come at us? You want to come at us? I say go get yourself some lunch, big boy. Go ahead.
Out of the car. Get out of the car. Get out of the car.
Whoa! Like Renee Good and Alex Prey, while bystanders captured everything on their phones. And here's the thing, we still don't even know who those agents are. Now let's dive into something pretty historic happening right now in Congress. It's kind of wild to see serious discussions, even from a handful of Republicans, about removing Trump from office. This all kicked into high gear after a federal judge slapped Pam Bondi with a contempt order because of the Department of Justice's obstruction over the Epstein files. Congress really blew up after that. House Democrats are pushing forward with articles of impeachment.
Throughout this inquiry, he has attempted to conceal the evidence from Congress and from the American people. Our president holds the ultimate public trust. When he betrays that trust and puts himself before country, he endangers the Constitution, he endangers our democracy, and he endangers our national security.
And there's bipartisan chatter about holding Trump accountable. Even Republican Representative Thomas Massie is saying Trump needs to face the music. The debates about whether he should be removed from office are heating up, and you can really feel the chaos and energy around it, indicating that Trump's presidency might be nearing its end. So, it looks like things are heating up in Congress right now. Both Republicans and Democrats are coming together, united in their call for Trump's impeachment. This isn't just a bunch of partisan Democrats stepping up. We're talking about officials from both sides, all agreeing that Trump has crossed the line and that obstruction of justice simply can't be accepted.
California's Kevin Kiley about his vote on that. Take a listen to what he said.
Problem for me is this attempt to reduce the power of members of the House. And then this is also, just authority that the House of Representatives has under Article 1 of our Constitution. And I think that, it's important in our system of checks and balances that we protect the powers that belong to our branch of government.
This kind of bipartisan pressure is huge. It puts Trump in a tough spot since he can't just brush it off as another partisan attack. It's his own party members who are ringing the alarm bells. At the moment, House Democrats are pushing forward with impeachment articles known as 353 and HRES 939. These articles point out serious issues like obstruction of justice, abuse of power, and even tyranny. They specifically mention Trump's interference with how the DOJ has handled the Epstein files. And get this, there are now over 210 co-sponsors for these articles.
HRES 939, House Resolution 939. This resolution, House 939, impeaching Donald John Trump, President of the United States, for high crimes and misdemeanors.
That's pretty remarkable. Almost half of the House. It's likely that the impeachment will go through since it seems like there's strong support, especially from the Democratic side. One of the key voices in this discussion is Representative Green, who's been vocal about Trump's actions for a long time. Green is now officially calling out Trump for abuse of power, taking a serious step with the formal impeachment process. It's not just talk at this point. It's a constitutional move to remove a sitting president, which carries a lot of weight. And on the House floor, lawmakers are actively debating this issue, making their votes known in real time. The atmosphere is charged with significant discussions, and a level of accountability we haven't seen in a while.
As armed federal agents push into communities into accepting his wins or suffering the consequences. We have now masked secret police who have shot 2 nonviolent protesters dead in the streets while people recorded on their camera phones, Renee Good and Alex Preddy. We still don't even know the identities of some of those agents who work for the government who shot and killed them.
Lawmakers are really stepping up and making it clear why they believe Trump should be impeached. They're arguing that he has committed serious crimes, and it's all being aired on television and streamed on YouTube for millions to see. The atmosphere on the House floor is quite intense. It's not your typical political debate, but a serious discussion about whether Trump should actually be removed from office. And what's really surprising is that even some Republicans are joining in on the call for accountability when it comes to Trump. Take Representative Massey, for instance. He's a conservative Republican aligned with the Tea Party.
Our Epstein Files Transparency Act requires you, please put it back on the screen, please, to release the internal decision about whether to prosecute him or not, and it's not in the files, and it's not in the files for any of these other men.
Time of the gentleman has expired.
May she answer?
And he's a hypocrite because he voted against the ban that we were talking about on deep fake AI porn. Only 2 people voted against it, and you were one of them, hypocrite.
And you'd expect him to defend Trump, but he's saying that Trump's actions have crossed a line and that there should be consequences. While Massey isn't calling for impeachment directly, his remarks show that even those who typically support Trump think he's gone too far. On top of that, a federal judge, Judge Engelmayer, recently weighed in on another issue, noting that the Department of Justice's removal of certain Epstein files could lead to contempt of court. The judge stated that if the DOJ doesn't produce all files without redactions by February 27th and doesn't appoint an independent monitor, then Bondi could be held in contempt. Now, contempt is no joke. It could even lead to jail time or removal from office. If Bondi faces consequences for following Trump's orders, then that clearly points back to Trump being ultimately responsible. Reflecting back on this, Trump himself made a comment back in January hinting that if Republicans lost the midterms, he would likely face impeachment, stating it would be a big win for Republicans. So he was aware of the risk, but it's happening now ahead of the midterms. Congress isn't waiting around anymore. They're moving forward with impeachment right away, and all of this is unfolding just days after Trump's not-so-great State of the Union address. Just a few days after a really chaotic State of the Union address where Trump was booed, heckled, and even had members of his own party walk out, Congress has started seriously talking about impeachment. It's wild when you think about it. Congress is treating Trump's actions as so serious that they feel immediate removal is necessary. Now, on the flip side, the MAGA crowd is really losing it. Influencers and figures in that camp are making bold threats, claiming there will be serious consequences if Trump gets impeached. They're talking about revolts among the base and even considering primary challenges against any Republicans who dare support impeachment. It's a clear sign of just how fiercely loyal Trump supporters are and how far they're willing to go to back him up. Meanwhile, GOP leaders are in full scramble mode, desperately trying to prevent impeachment from happening. They're working hard to convince their fellow Republicans to vote against it and trying to block the process altogether. But honestly, it doesn't seem like they're going to succeed. The Democrats have a grip on the House and the votes needed for impeachment. So it looks like it's really going to happen. And when it does, it will be historic, unprecedented even, and will define Trump's presidency. All of this is unfolding against a backdrop of chaos. The Epstein cover-up, issues surrounding tariffs, some racist video, various walkouts during rallies, that disastrous State of the Union, a press evacuation, the Kash Patel scandal, and collapsing approval ratings amid bipartisan criticism. Everything seems to be pointing in one direction. Trump's presidency appears to be nearing its end. Impeachment is on the horizon. Trump will face a trial, and he's inevitably going to be held accountable. We might soon witness a constitutional crisis unlike anything we've seen before. And to really grasp why Congress is pushing for Trump's removal, we should acknowledge that impeachment is a serious and rare move. Impeachment isn't something that comes up lightly. It's usually reserved for only the most serious situations. So, when I see Congress pushing forward with impeachment and getting backing from both Democrats and a few Republicans, it's clear they think Trump has crossed some very serious lines. Let's dive into what Judge Engel had to say. He pointed out that the Department of Justice's deletion of Epstein files looks a lot like willful obstruction. If the DOJ doesn't follow his order by February 27th, they could find themselves in contempt. That's no small matter. The judge's remarks were pretty intense, emphasizing that the selective deletions really do give off a strong whiff of obstruction. He accused the DOJ of purposefully holding back documents, claiming this is a significant breach of the rule of law. When a federal judge makes statements like that, it's important. It's solid evidence, a legal finding that can definitely be called upon during impeachment proceedings. Now, let's get into the specific articles of impeachment. They're laying out accusations for obstruction of justice, abuse of power, and tyranny. These charges are not just casual complaints. There's serious legal and constitutional grounds for impeachment. With over 210 co-sponsors, it shows there's quite a bit of support in the House. And then there's House Resolution 939 introduced by Representative Al Green. That article specifically calls out Trump for abuse of power and incitement. Green is someone who takes this seriously. He's been concerned about Trump's behavior for a while. By using the formal process of impeachment, he's making it clear that some members of Congress feel Trump's actions absolutely deserve accountability. Moving on to the particular charges against Trump, he's been accused of obstructing justice by messing with how the DOJ handles the Epstein files. There's also the charge of abuse of power since he allegedly used the Justice Department to cover up documents that could implicate him personally. Not to mention, he's been hit with a charge of tyranny for trying to silence information and block the truth from getting out. These aren't trivial matters. They're legitimate grounds for impeachment. And the evidence backing these charges, it's quite strong. There's quite a bit of evidence out there, and it's pretty eye-opening. Documents were deleted from the Department of Justice's public database. And it turns out that pages with information about Trump were kept under wraps intentionally. A federal judge even said that this deletion was an act of obstruction. It also suggests that Trump is behind the DOJ's moves. And honestly, the weight of the evidence is pretty strong enough that it could likely convince a jury or the Senate. Now, it's interesting to see some Republicans stepping up and calling for accountability. For instance, Representative Thomas Massie, who is a conservative and generally in Trump's corner, has publicly stated that Trump's actions are just unacceptable. This is really noteworthy because it shows this isn't just a case of Democrats going after Trump. Even some Republicans feel he's crossed a line. Bipartisan pressure is important here. When folks from both sides of the aisle are pushing for accountability, that's significant weight. It indicates that there's a shared concern across party lines, which elevates this conversation beyond party politics and into serious constitutional territory. It's a tough spot for Trump, too, because he can't simply brush it off as another witch hunt. He has to face the reality that some of his fellow Republicans think he might be in the wrong. Now, when it comes to impeachment discussions in the House that shows serious intent, formal debates mean that Congress is seriously considering whether the president should be removed from office. These discussions are happening out in the open, streamed live, and millions of Americans are tuning in to hear Congress members weigh in on whether Trump should stay or go. And let's not forget about what Trump said back in January. He mentioned that if Republicans lost the midterms, he would get impeached, suggesting that he understood the risks involved. If the Democrats took control of the House, there would likely be repercussions, and it's clear he was aware of that possibility. Impeachment is really moving forward, and it seems like Congress isn't willing to wait until the midterms to take action. Trump has been treating impeachment like it's a disaster he needs to avoid at all costs. But now it's happening, and Congress believes it has to step in right away. There's this serious talk about contempt threats, especially since if Bondi gets held in contempt of court by February 27th, that could set off a whole chain reaction calling for impeachment. This could pressure Congress to kick things into gear really quickly and force a House vote on impeachment before we know it. So, we're likely looking at impeachment happening within days or weeks, not dragging on for months or years. If the House does vote to impeach Trump, then the case moves to the Senate for a trial. Senators will hold hearings and sift through evidence before casting their votes on whether to convict him. If 2/3 of the senators decide to convict, that means Trump gets removed from office. Right now, though, it seems pretty unlikely that enough Republicans would go that route. So, it's more probable he would stick around even if he's impeached. He would still face trial, and be formally charged with high crimes and misdemeanors. Now, let's dive into the political fallout. Impeachment is set to take over the news cycle for a considerable time, and it's going to become the main focus for Congress. This whole situation is going to overshadow everything else, making it tough for Trump to push his agenda through. We're looking at a government that could be pretty paralyzed, which isn't great for Trump's ability to govern. The Republican Party is really feeling the pressure from this impeachment situation. There are some Republicans who think Trump should be impeached, and some who are seriously fed up with his behavior. On the other hand, there are also loyal supporters defending him. This division is causing a rift within the party, making it challenging for Republicans to stand united as they head into the midterms. And let's not forget about the threats coming from MAGA supporters. Things are definitely heating up. So, there's this whole thing going on with Republicans and impeachment that's really shaking things up. A lot of MAGA figures are warning that if Republicans vote for impeachment, they'll face primary challenges within their own party. This is causing some serious intimidation, trying to stop Republicans from doing what they're supposed to do according to the Constitution. It's not just a political maneuver. It's honestly corrosive to democracy and undermines the rule of law. When citizens start threatening politicians for voting based on their conscience, it's like a direct strike against democracy. Now, let's dive into what all this chaos in Congress over Trump's removal means for him, the Republican Party, the rule of law, and the future of American democracy. This moment is truly historic. First off, let's think about Trump and his presidency. If Congress decides to move forward with impeachment, his entire time in office turns into a defensive battle. He won't be able to govern or pass new laws or even push his agenda. Instead, he'll just be left defending himself. This situation would render him a lame duck, powerless, and pretty much irrelevant as all the focus shifts to the impeachment trial. Now, let's consider the Republican Party. It's getting pretty fractured over this impeachment issue. Some members want to see Trump impeached, while others are standing by him and even trying to block impeachment altogether. This division is wreaking havoc on party unity and making it difficult for Republicans to come together and deliver a clear message leading into the midterms. A party that can't unite is likely to struggle come election time. And this whole impeachment thing is probably going to hurt them in the midterms. Speaking of midterms, they're coming up in 2026. And if Democrats have control of the House when that happens, they'll likely boast about holding Trump accountable. They'll campaign on their achievements of impeaching him for obstruction of justice and defending the rule of law. That's a strong, compelling message that could definitely connect with voters and give Democrats an advantage in those elections. Let's dive into what impeachment really means for our system of government. Impeachment is a tool that Congress crafted to keep the president in check and accountable, making it an essential part of maintaining our separation of powers. If Congress lets Trump get away with obstructing justice without facing any repercussions, it really shakes up the balance of power and poses a threat to our democratic system. On the flip side, if Congress goes ahead with impeachment, it's essentially doing its job holding Trump accountable and ensuring that the separation of powers remains intact. Now, when we look at the rule of law, it hinges on the idea of equal justice. Nobody should be above the law, right? That means presidents need to face consequences if they break the law. If Trump is allowed to obstruct justice freely, it signals a troubling reality where the rule of law just doesn't exist anymore. It's like having a president who operates above the law. However, impeaching Trump sends a clear message that no one is untouchable, reinforcing the importance of the rule of law. Next up, there's the issue of federal judge Engelmeyer and his authority. He's issued a contempt order and set a timeline with some serious threats of contempt charges lingering. If Trump's Department of Justice ignores this directive, it directly challenges the judge's authority. But if Congress proceeds with impeachment, it backs up the judge's position, showing that all three branches of government, judicial, legislative, and possibly executive, are on the same page holding Trump accountable for his actions. Then there's the situation with Pam Bondi, the Attorney General. She's in a tough spot, facing contempt charges amidst all this. Bondi is tangled up in the obstruction of justice scandal, particularly in regard to the Epstein files, and being linked to an impeachment proceeding is pretty rough for her career. The chances of her having to resign seem high, and it's likely she'll be remembered largely for her role in obstructing justice, which isn't ideal. Lastly, The bipartisan nature of the push against Trump is noteworthy. This isn't just a bunch of Democrats rallying against him. There's a broader coalition forming, making it clear that the pressure is significant and crosses party lines. It's quite something to see both Republicans and Democrats coming together. Members of Congress from both parties are stepping up and demanding accountability, saying Trump has committed serious offenses. This bipartisan pressure is really putting Trump in a tough spot. He can't brush it off as just a witch hunt anymore. It's clear that even some Republicans feel he's guilty, and that's got to sting.